4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
With a sanctified imagination, a Bible-based worldview, and a face made for radio, it's the new R7 Radio with Hoover, live from the great state of Arkansas. No more rehearsing and rehearsing apart. We know every chord by heart. Oh, and sure, turn the lights. This is it. We'll hit the heights. And oh, what heights we'll hit. On with the show. This is it. And thank you for joining us once again, R7 Radio. I am live from, believe it or not, Noah's Ark. Now, before you get up in airs, not the original Noah's Ark, it's the reproduction up here in, what's the name of the town that we're in? Sitting across from me, by the way, is my new friend Patrick Kanuski. We have an announcement.
Everything from hot dogs to all you can eat buffet.
Well, hot dogs. We know where I'll be later. Okay, Patrick, good to have you with us today. What's the name of the town that we're in here?
We're in Williamstown, Kentucky.
Williamstown, Kentucky. Beautiful country. As you know, my wife and I drove up here, kind of doing a mini vacation. We stopped by. Patrick was good enough to do an interview with us today. Now, Patrick, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do here. Now, your sister organization is Answers in Genesis, right?
Yeah. Well,
yeah. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, the parent organization is Answers in Genesis. Ken Ham and his two co-founders came to central Kentucky, northern Kentucky, right below Cincinnati, really. They came there back in the mid-90s and set up shop and started going on speaking tours, and they created a magazine, and then they built the Creation Museum. Now, the Creation Museum has been open for 11 years. That's up in Petersburg, Kentucky, just west of the Cincinnati Airport, which the Cincinnati Airport's in Kentucky.
That's
so
interesting.
Figure that one out.
Yeah.
Anyways, there's
sounds like a government thing to me.
Long story.
Yeah, right.
Has to do with money, as you can imagine.
Sure, yeah.
So anyhow, the Creation Museum is west of CVG, which is the Cincinnati Airport, on 275, Highway 275, and then you come down south on 75, and that's where the ARK ENCOUNTER is in Williamstown, Kentucky.
Okay.
We're halfway between Cincinnati and Lexington.
Yeah, and this is incredible, folks. You got to get up here and see this. My wife and I just pulled into the driveway, and I just wanted to sit out there for a while. It's very overwhelming, and I mean, I knew it was going to be big, but really, I didn't have any idea. So, okay, so I usually do this at the end of the program, but while I'm thinking about it, tell us how people find information about the Ark, information about Answers in Genesis. Give us the websites and stuff like that.
Yeah, we have 3 different websites. AnswersInGenesis.org is what most people go into, and then from there you can actually find the one for the Ark and the one for the Creation Museum. But AnswersInGenesis.org, or you can go to CreationMuseum.com or ARKEncounter.com. ARK Encounter.com.
And so now tell us what your function is here at both locations.
Well, I'm the Director of Ministry and Media Relations. I work for one of the co-founders. He's the Chief Communications Officer. And I do basically PR work, right? And anywhere from TV, live TV, all the way down to these kind of blogs, or answer letters or emails, or anything related to the media.
Now, I hate to draw the attention away from you, but I've got to do this because we've got a donkey coming in over there, and I want to show the folks that this is actually behind us is a pen where they bring animals in every day, and I don't know if you can see that donkey over there or not.
Bring that guy over here.
Can you? Yeah. There we go. There we go. Look at them over there. They're working hard with their stubborn donkeys.
Tell us about what it is. Miniature Mediterranean donkey. Miniature
Mediterranean. Oops, sorry. Folks, I got to apologize. I got to be careful here with Patrick. He busted his leg up and almost ran him over earlier. He's being very kind, and then I.
What else are you bringing up? green iguana and a rhinoceros iguana are coming up.
Are going to be over.
Bearded dragon.
A bearded dragon. This is also an iguana, not a wings and fire. That'd be bad on the Ark. Fire. Yeah. Okay.
We have some fancy hood rats.
Rats.
Rats. You know, you don't think about stuff like that. You know, you think about all the pretty animals that were on the Ark.
Well,
but yeah.
God was very wise in His creation. He created all kinds of, the spectrum of kinds of animals. And I was talking to you earlier. This might be interesting for everyone. That a kind is, you probably learned in high school biology that it goes kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Well, God didn't bring every species of animal. He brought the animal kinds, which is roughly equivalent to a family. So if you have a family, underneath that is a genus and species. So for the canine kind, it was either, and you can read this in Genesis, it was either 7 or 7 pair of the clean kind.
Right.
So it would have been that many dogs, canines, and then from that comes all the species of dog that we see today.
So give us a number. We talked about this a little bit earlier, and I of course, just looking it up on Google, was way off on my numbers.
Right.
So give us the numbers.
Based on our scientific research and dealing with the PhDs that deal with this kind of thing, based on the fossil record and anything you can imagine that dates back, we have come up with that there's around 1,400 kinds, which equates to somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000 animals total.
Okay, and so how many animals then would have approximately? I know we don't know exactly, but would have been on. You said you did the high end. Explain that a little bit, like 7 pairs, or that's how many were on there.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we're talking about based on the fossil record and documentation, 1,400 kinds equates to 6,000 or 7,000 animals total on the Ark.
Because so many times, when you're out there, you hear people say, "Oh, there's no way all those animals could have fit on the Ark."
Well, I mean, that's what is really awesome about this place. It's so big. It's the biblical dimensions, right? 300 cubits long, 30 cubits tall, 50 cubits wide. Turns out that the engineers we've spoken to, they say that it's the perfect dimensions for seaworthiness, weight distribution, stability, anything you can imagine about having a ship this size on the ocean. So God knew His dimensions, and He's a pretty good engineer.
Kind of knew what He was doing, huh?
Yeah. So this Ark that you see when you come to the Ark Encounter is the biblical dimensions. 510 feet long, 51 feet tall, 84 feet wide. It's the largest timber frame structure in the world.
It's just incredible.
You can tell by these big trees.
Tell us a little bit about these trees here. I'm going to swing over just a little bit so they can see this. This massive tree.
The middle of the structure is actually 62 trees, and these 62 trees make up the core of the inside, if you will. These are structurally sound trees, 62 of them. They run the length of the ship, and they're in a V shape because the triangle is the most stable structure in nature and in engineering.
Right.
We can't build skyscrapers in a triangle really because the corner office would be really narrow. Yeah. So we do them in square.
Sure.
But a lot of the supports and all that on the outside, you might see some buildings that have supports that are like this, that are triangular shape, that gives it its stability.
Yeah, that makes sense. Most bridges you see and stuff like that are built in kind of a triangle fashion. And so here, now these were all, did you say they were some kind of fir tree, most of these?
Right, these are mostly Douglas fir. There's most of the 62 trees are Douglas fir from Utah. There's 8 that are Engelmann spruce that came from a standing dead forest. We wanted to use all these. They were free from the standing dead forest. The harvester was going to give them to us, but we can only use 8 that were structurally sound enough to use on the Ark. The rest are Douglas fir that we had to purchase.
Had a young child ask me, he said, "Hoover, can you ask them when they get up there, if there was a big enough flood, would the boat float?"
I won't, well, I won't tell you what I tell some people in person, but what I'll tell your listeners is this is a building that looks like a ship.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a building that looks like a ship. It won't float. It's built 15 feet off the ground. There are there, you know, different entries and things like that where people come in, so there's no way it can float.
Right.
And actually, the hull is not even if it was detached from the towers and all the fire escapes and everything, it's not structural to be able to float, because our hull is only a few inches thick.
Right.
The hull that Noah would have had would have been feet thick.
Right.
To be able to hold all this weight.
So let's talk about that a little bit. The idea behind building this was not to recreate the Ark. It was to recreate the size, the dimensions, what was in the Ark, what could the Ark have held.
Right.
I mean, you didn't use peg connectors.
No,
There's metal bolts.
We talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
The Bible's very, very sketchy on the Ark. It gives the dimensions.
Right.
It said God told Noah to build the Ark. Okay. He said, bring your family. Okay. He said, I will bring the animals.
Right.
Noah didn't have to worry about the animals.
Right.
God brought the animals. So again, there's not a lot of detail about the Ark. So we took a lot of creative license. We actually named the wives. The wives' names are not in the Bible. For Noah's wife and his 3 sons' wives, the wives are not named. But we gave them names. We wanted to humanize them. We shaded them a little bit differently, because from these 8 people came everybody that we know today.
Right.
They populated the earth.
And I think you've mentioned this a few times as you were kind of giving us a tour, that a lot of the questions that we're asking now, you're going to have a much better answer just from your displays.
Right.
Yeah. So tell us about that a little bit, how
Right.
each display has a...
Well, we did a lot of research. We didn't want to just have cages here with animals in them and, you know, this is how Noah would have done it. It's really an education center here that talks to the biblical account of the flood. So there's lots of questions that people have. I know I had lots of questions about the flood. So what we try to do is answer the questions that you might have had before you even had the question. For instance, you asked, what do you think the population was before the flood?
Right.
How many animal kinds are there? We kind of answered that. So the exhibits really speak for themselves. It is a self-guided tour. I would give it, there's 3 levels of exhibits to look at, plus we have a zoo and great places to eat. There's lots of merchandise, retail here also. I would give it a good 5 or 6 hours. If you do read everything and you see all the movies and the films and the videos and everything, it's going to take you a while to read it, and then to go around and see all the gardens and everything, it's going to take you a good 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah. Now, tell me about, you were talking about how this has been scientifically put together. So this isn't just some biblical scholars that came and said, hey, we think this is what it looked like. I mean, through Answers in Genesis and through the Ark Encounter, you guys have lots of doctors. And when I say doctor, I mean they have their doctorate in PhDs in geology and archaeology, and I mean tell us a little bit about the background of that scientific study that went into.
We used actually the gentleman that helped us design the ship here, the outside and the inside, is the world expert on ancient ship design. We found that guy. He was willing to help us out.
90 seconds.
He was invaluable to, you know, what does the ship look like? So based on, again, archaeological finds and writings and everything, he put together what the ship would look like. It's branded for us, so this can't be copied. And the inside of the ship is, you know, for instance, the center section is open for air circulation.
I'm going to try to swing this around and show them.
And everything else. So
yeah.
You can see that down
60
further,
seconds.
you can see where the light comes through. The center of the ship is actually open. So we do have a lot of experts on our staff. We have theologians. We have PhDs in biology, microbiology, paleontology. We have a cosmologist.
Yeah.
So a guy that studies the stars and all that, and just really, really awesome people. We have a geneticist. So we have some very, very specific expertise on our staff.
I think that's great information for us to have, because so many people just believe, oh, you know, science believes one thing and Christians believe another. But there are a lot of Christian scientists, and I don't mean Christian Science, I mean Christians that are scientists that believe in a literal 6 days of creation.
10
They believe
seconds.
the history of Genesis, and they're scientists, top-notch
Well,
scientists.
one of the movies that I do recommend, and it was out in the theaters in 2017 and again in 2018 in February, is Genesis History
Right.
by Del Tackett. Del Tackett did that. Is Genesis History, and a lot of our PhDs and other experts were in that film, and they would just lend credibility to what was said in talking about the Ark.
Right, great film, and Del Tackett's got his stuff together. The presentations that he does is great. We've gone through the Truth Project several times in our
right,
church, and
exactly.
just absolutely wonderful. Okay, and so now tell us the difference in the decks. We came through, and like the first deck here has one thing, the second, and yeah.
Well, we have 3 levels of exhibits. There's 100 some odd exhibits altogether if you count everything, inside and out. So the first level is really, you're kind of in a queue still. I mentioned before that the Ark is built 15 feet off the ground. The queue line is underneath the Ark, along with the gift shop is underneath the Ark.
Right.
So you have to go up one level, you walk up a ramp, and you go in the entryway after you have your picture taken. And you're really still queued up a bit. There's animal cages that are on deck 1, and then you're kind of coming down toward the bow section of the ship. You see a half Ark model, which is behind glass, which is just very well done.
Incredible, yeah.
It's a slice of the Ark, half of the Ark opened up, and it depicts how the cages might have been situated in the Ark. So we don't have that here. We don't have just all cages here, but we have exhibits.
Right.
So that half Ark model really tells you. And along with that is your first introduction to animal kinds. There's a large display about animal kinds and the number of animals that would have been in the Ark. So that's really about it on deck 1. It's just really queuing you up, getting you oriented. On deck 2, you actually come up a ramp from deck 1 to deck 2, so it's very wheelchair, crutch friendly, if you will, kid friendly.
And you know, because
strollers.
you're on crutches, so yeah.
So when you come up to deck 2, which is where we're at right now, the first thing you see is pre-flood world, the pre-flood society. What was it like before the flood? Why did God destroy the earth?
Yeah.
So we really show creation right there as you first come up on deck 2. We show the different days of creation, and that the Garden of Eden, everything was pretty hunky-dory. Adam and Eve were getting along pretty well. So then you kind of leave that and you walk a little bit further down, and that pre-flood world continues with the fall. So you have the fall. Adam and Eve are banished from the garden. They have sons. There's murder. There's debauchery. And God is not pleased with what's going on the earth, and that is depicted when you go further down. And then the flood. So that really kind of sets everybody up for the Ark. From there, on deck 2, you actually see an interview with Noah. There's a interview crew. There's a guy that sketches Noah. It's called the Noah Interview. It's back in the time when Noah was actually building the Ark. So that's interesting.
Great.
It's
really
well done. Kind of gives some facts about how Noah built the Ark and all of that. So it's educational and entertaining at the same time. And then as you come along the port side of deck 2, there are various displays on animal kinds, care and feeding of the animals. Noah is actually sitting in, that's one thing I didn't mention. The family, all 8 members of the family are on every level. On deck 1, they're on a stage, and Noah is praying. On deck 2, they are either caring for the animals or cleaning the place. Noah's in his office. You can ask Noah and Imzara, you can ask Noah 14 questions, and Imzara's standing there with him. His library is next to that. There's a wood shop where one of the sons is working. There's a metal shop where one of the sons is working. There's an exhibit on who was Noah, who was Noah's grandfather. Do you know?
I don't.
Yeah, Methuselah.
Yeah.
Oldest man to ever live, 969 years old when he died. So we talk about Noah. Who were his family members, and why him? Why the Ark with Noah?
Right.
And then we have a fairy tale Ark display where we kind of talk about, you've been through the Ark about halfway through by now, and we show what are we really teaching our kids? Is the
That's
Ark
good, yeah.
a plastic boat floating in the tub with a couple of jets sticking out the top?
Right.
Not really. I mean, that's kind of a fairy tale.
Yeah.
Which is good, you know, it's fun for kids and all that, but there is so much out there that we don't tell our kids about the Ark. So if we're teaching them that the Ark is a fairy tale, then what are we teaching them about the rest of the book?
Right. Well, that's good. Yeah.
So that's up here.
Yeah.
And then you come to the prized possession on the Ark, I think, is the door. Now, there is a ramp outside on the front of the Ark that you probably saw when you were walking up.
Sure.
It goes to the door. And the Bible says that the family and the animals entered through the door. And we use that as a metaphor for salvation. It's a metaphor for safety. The family's safety, that's how they got saved from the flood, as they came through the door.
Right.
And Jesus Christ is the door.
That's great.
So the gospel is proclaimed there at the door. It's a place that everybody has their picture taken. And it's just a really iconic place.
Yeah.
And then we also have up here, you showed your guest earlier, we do have a cage up here for live animals. We bring them up about mid-morning every day, and then we put them back to the zoo so we can
It's really
hang out.
cool. You know, you say you bring them up, but you actually you let me ride in the elevator where you bring them up. I thought that
yeah.
was really neat.
Well, we have a cargo elevator that has a back door, so the animals come on the cargo elevator. That's how they get up to deck 2.
Yeah.
Because they really didn't like the ramps.
Yeah.
The ramps are too slippery and they're sliding all over the place.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so now another question that I got
that's
to
deck
ask
2.
is that's deck 2. So let's move on to deck 3.
So you wanna go to deck
Yep,
3?
let's go to
Okay.
deck 3. Tell us about it.
So deck 3, you go up another ramp system. It's a pleasant walk. It's not a steep ramp. It's a gradual ramp. You go up to deck 3, and the first thing you see there is the living quarters. So now the family, again, I said that they're either working or they're cleaning on deck 2. Now the family on deck 3 is in their living quarters.
Right.
It's very ornate. We do have a disclaimer before you go into that we took a lot of artistic license.
Right.
Because the Bible doesn't talk anything about how
Now,
to live.
just let me interject right here. I don't mean to be rude, but I love the display that you have downstairs that
Yeah.
says you took artistic license. I love that. Go ahead.
That's the
Continue.
first thing that
That's
the
great.
guests really see is
Hold on.
a display on.
One more thing I got to do. I got to get a picture of that
Oh,
rat
there you
thing
go.
sitting on
This
her.
is really cool.
Yeah. Now tell us about that, ma'am. What is that you've got there?
She's one of our fancy-headed rats. Her name's Honey.
Fancy-headed rat.
Named Honey.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
have 6 of them, 5 of them?
4.
Yeah, 4.
Her and her 3 sisters.
That's
Really big and fish.
that's really great. Now, do you let this rat crawl on people that come and see you, or is this just it's a private rat? Yeah, it's a private rat. You don't.
Yeah, we don't let anything else fully out.
Have you had anybody ask?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, you know, my wife
We
wouldn't.
had,
I
we
can
had
tell you.
tarantulas here too.
Oh my goodness!
And
See,
I would hold them every once in a while.
so yeah, that would scare me. I'm not a spider guy. The rat I could do. The spiders, no. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I saw her back there with a rat
okay.
crawling on her. I thought we got to get this. All right, so go ahead. Deck
so
3
living
is
quarters,
yeah,
right?
living quarters.
So in the living quarters, we have a bedroom for each of the couples. So there's 4 bedrooms, right?
Yeah,
4 bedrooms, and then there's a garden, there's a kitchen, there's a dining area, and an aviary. And in the aviary, Noah is actually retrieving one of the many birds that he released. So
Yeah.
that's a trivia question for your folks. They might, can they answer back on your blog?
yes, they can. They'll write in and
Okay,
they'll.
so here's
yeah.
the question
Okay,
for
here's
the
the question.
audience.
Get a free coffee cup from R7 Radio if you get this right.
There you go. And I have to tell you what the answer
Yeah,
is.
because I'm sure I don't know.
And I didn't know when I got here. I mean, I've learned so much since I've been here about just Genesis. I read it completely differently now.
Sure.
So Noah released some birds, right?
Yeah.
I'll give you a clue that the last bird he released, it didn't come back.
Yeah.
Right? So that kind of gave him an indication of how the floodwaters were doing and things like that. So how many birds total did he release from the ark?
See, and I would have said 2. So don't give us the answer right now because
Okay.
I'm sure that's wrong. But let me get the answer from you later, and we'll put it out there. And if somebody gets the,
Now,
if you get the
this
answer
is-
right,
This is super trivia, but
Yeah.
it is in Genesis.
okay. So
It
you
is
can
in
find it.
Genesis.
Hi
Yeah,
there.
you definitely can.
Okay, great.
So now you're finished with the living quarters. The next thing you see is another 20-minute movie. That one on deck 2 with Noah's interview is 20 minutes. This one up here on deck 3 is also 20 minutes, but it's a modern day interview with a guy at the ARK Encounter named Noah.
Oh, okay, great.
All right, and it's the same actors as the guys from before.
Okay.
So the interview lady before is all tatted up, and she's very cynical, very, well, she's very cynical.
Yeah.
In the first movie, and it carries over to the second movie. It's a modern day. She's a reporter from a tabloid called PIT. The Pit. It's very well done.
Yeah.
The gospel is proclaimed at the end. Ray Comfort is in the video
very
at
good.
the end, and
Yeah.
he just goes all the way through the gospel, and it's very well done.
That's excellent.
So she's in it, and she's affected this time.
Yeah.
So it's really well done.
Are these videos? Can you purchase these
Yes, you can.
online, or how
You can get them either online or in our bookstore downstairs.
when you come and visit?
Or the Creation Museum.
Speaking of when you come and visit, I had another question. You know, we can go to the museum in Oklahoma for $16. How come it costs $48 to go to the Ark? Or there's that.
Because it costs some money to build it, and you
Yeah.
have to pay back.
And you're not government subsidized,
Oh, no,
right?
no,
I mean,
no.
the government had nothing to do with this. It's all
No.
privately funded, right?
It's all privately funded.
And just like you said, some of the materials were given to you, and not a lot, though. I imagine you had to pay for a lot of things, and you're not getting money from the government.
No.
That's what I told them. I said, it's like if you went to Dollywood or some kind of place like that, you're gonna,
Oh, my
even Silver
goodness.
Dollar Cities.
What's Disney now? $139
Right.
for one ticket for one
Yeah.
day. I mean,
And
Yeah.
I want people to understand what they've got here. Because even when I spoke to you originally, I said, hey, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to visit the Ark for a couple hours, then I'm going to go over to the Creation Museum for a couple hours. And you said, Hoover, that's just not going to work.
No.
This is an all-day thing.
Yeah.
And so we changed our plans according to you. And from what I've seen so far,
Right.
I could spend more than a day here.
right. Oh, yeah, you can. We haven't even gotten all the way through Deck 3.
Yeah.
There's a zoo with lots of animals to check out. We have gardens that you can go through. We have an awesome 1,500-seat buffet restaurant.
Yeah, and everybody knows I'm interested in that.
We'll be going there later.
Amen.
So there's all kinds of seats. We have zip lines here. There's 3.5 miles of zip line.
That's incredible.
Here at the Ark. So there's lots of things to do.
It's an all-day adventure. I want to show the folks out there up here. This is what caught my eye. You're going to see when you come here, I don't know if you can catch that, but they have these little clay pots under the lights. The ideas that are all over this Ark that they have, that how things might have been done, the automatic feeders downstairs and the watering systems and some of the things that you guys have done so much research to show, you don't even think about when you're just thinking about, hey, I'm going to go visit the Ark, I'm going to see what it looked like. But there's so much information here. You've got signs up everywhere just talking about different situations and different ideas. It's not only a fun experience, but educational.
Okay, so we have a couple ideas here that we need to finish.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, we need to finish on Deck 3.
Yeah, Deck 3.
But
Thank you.
you did say that it takes a couple days to see everything. Now, if you get a combination ticket, and the combination ticket, you obviously get a break on the full price of this and the Creation Museum.
Yeah.
It's good for a day here and 2 days at the Creation Museum.
Okay.
So it's actually a 3-day ticket. And I think the adult price is $70, which is very reasonable.
Very, yeah,
For
right.
3 days worth of.
That's incredible,
It's,
actually.
it's entertainment, it's education, it's the Bible proclaimed, it's the gospel proclaimed. It's definitely worth it.
Yeah.
And actually, if you do come to the Ark or the Creation Museum, you can use those tickets. You can use the Creation Museum tickets within a year.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's not like something happens or something like that. You can keep that ticket in.
I think can I upgrade mine? I mean, I bought the
You can
I bought the
upgrade.
tickets today just for the Ark. I wonder if I can.
Why did you buy tickets?
Because I don't know. I appreciate that. But you know what?
That's your.
This was
Anyway,
my.
we'll talk about
I
that
didn't know.
later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Finish Deck 3. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
Deck
I
3.
dart all over the place.
Deck 3. So you finished with that sequel. It's called As in the Days of Noah. Is that movie upstairs on Deck 3? And all these movies are in the stern of the ship on Deck 2 and Deck 3. After that, there's a whole lineup of museum quality exhibits on flood geology. What was the geology of the Earth before and after the flood? What did the flood do to the Earth? And then the Ice Age, we get into that, and how there was an Ice Age. It's documented there was an Ice Age after the flood. We also talk about the Tower of Babel. That was really the next major thing that happened after Noah and his family landed with the Ark and the animals. They settled, but they weren't dispersing. And they built this tower, and so the whole story about the Tower of Babel is depicted in an exhibit. We also talk about ancient man. Was ancient man bright? Or was he, what was he like?
Yeah.
We also have an exhibit on flood legends. How many different people groups around the world have a story about a flood?
Sure.
Biblical account obviously is in the Bible, but nearly, and we depict how many different people groups have a story about the flood.
Yeah,
Even in the
and
Quran.
little hint there, it's more than two.
Yeah,
A lot more.
Even in the Quran, there is a flood that's talked about.
Right.
From there, we have a Rainbow Covenant exhibit, which talks about the rainbow and its significance, and what does it mean to the Christian, what does it say about the rainbow in the Bible, what does it mean to the Christian. And then is something very exciting, is there's 11 exhibits, 11 bays of exhibits from the Museum of the Bible. The Museum of the Bible was opened up in November of last year, but when we opened the Ark, there was 11 displays from the Museum of the Bible. Now, the artifacts that are in the Museum of the Bible are from Hobby Lobby, Mr. Green.
Uh-huh.
The Green collection. He's got 40,000 some odd artifacts from all over the world in his warehouse, and he has some here, about 1,000 or so at the Museum of the Bible. But these exhibits are really awesome.
Where are these exhibits?
On deck 3.
On deck 3.
Yeah.
I'm
On the port side.
very excited about that. I do a show where I do the history of the King James Bible, but I do a historical record of the Bible. Got a good friend, Bob Foster, who used to be the CEO at the Great Passion Play, has a really nice collection of ancient biblical texts,
Yeah.
and I'm
Well,
really
wait till
looking
you
forward to
see
seeing
this.
that. Yeah, that's great.
They'll blow you away. And then one of our last displays is in the bow of the ship on deck 3. Is the Bible true? Why is the Bible true?
The answer is yes.
Yeah, the Bible is true, but it really
But
talks
why?
about why the Bible's true.
That's great, yeah.
And you actually walk through a graphic novel. There's 3 college students that are taking a course on world religions, and we take those 3 students through a graphic novel. You're actually walking through and listening. You're reading about what they're saying
That's
in the speech bubbles.
That's excellent.
So it's
I'm really looking forward to this.
That's
Yeah,
really good.
I may have to get my wife and go back and start from the beginning.
Yeah.
And do that. Okay, so that's deck 3.
That's deck 3. There are some things that are intermediate things to read and look at and all that. So, but that's the majority. That's the major exhibits that you see.
Right. Now, you were telling me about something earlier, the construction of the Ark, especially the fronts and backs. I had a question from one of the kids was, how did they steer the Ark? And you had mentioned earlier.
Well, I mean, think of the Ark as a lifeboat. Okay, it's got no rudder.
Right.
It's a ship. And in the interview with Noah, he talks about what an Ark is.
Yeah.
It's really pretty cool the way he does.
Looking
that,
forward to
but
seeing that. Yeah.
It didn't have to steer. It was a lifeboat. It just
Right.
had to float. So there are 3 keels. We think from our ancient ship design expert that there would have been 3 keels for stability and seaworthiness and things like that. But on the bow of the ship is what I call a sail. It's a large wooden structure on the front of the boat, up on top. And what that would do is that would catch the wind and right the ship so it would go in the direction of the wind.
It's pretty
So
amazing.
if it goes in the direction of the wind, it goes in the direction of the waves.
Right.
It's more stable. You're not flopping around. And stuff
Yeah,
like that.
that's really cool. Now, this is kind of a personal question, but I'm interested to see how a Marine ended up on a boat. I mean, that's kind of neat, right? So you're ex-Marine, and now here you
There's
are.
no ex-Marines.
Oh, okay, that's right. That's right.
Once a Marine.
My apologies.
Once a Marine, always a Marine.
Yeah. So,
I was in
that's-
the Marine Corps for 30 years, active duty for 30 years. And we settled down in Tampa at MacDill, is CENTCOM, Central Command, and that was
Yeah.
our last duty station. So we stayed down. We were keeping an eye on my mother-in-law down there in Tampa also. And one thing led to another. We brought our girls up here to the museum. It was way before the Ark was built.
Yeah.
In 2013, we came up, did a road trip. We were homeschooling our kids, and we checked out the Creation Museum, and they were having a presentation on the Ark Bond Initiative, how they were going to fund the total funding for the Ark so they could start building. And we just basically bought into that.
Yeah.
We just thought it was great. We wanted to be part of that. I met one of the co-founders. He asked me for a resume. We stayed in touch. And then in January of 16, I texted him and I said, hey, you're going to open this year. I hope everything's going well. And he called me up a half hour later and says, I think you need to come up here and help us finish this.
That's great.
So I came up without the family. They put me in charge of finishing off the inside, so I hired a crew, bought the materials for building all the interior walls, getting everything ready for the exhibit installation.
Yeah. So you're deeply ingrained in this project.
Wood grain.
Yeah.
Deeply ingrained into, I know every inch of this place.
Right.
It's really neat to be part of it.
And it looks like you really enjoy your job.
Oh, yeah,
it's a really
So
cool.
now I'm the PR guy. And I was the director here at the ARK for a while. Now I'm the PR guy, and it's really good.
Yeah, it's really good. Well, let's see. I'm trying to think of any other. I think I've gotten through all the questions. I think you've kind of given us a really good
Well, let me
rundown.
talk
of what's
about the
going
zoo
on.
a little bit
Yes,
more.
please do. Yeah, that's great.
And then we'll talk about overnights.
Great.
I
Oh yeah,
mentioned
yeah,
overnights.
that's exactly right. Yeah.
So the zoo, we're trying to make that educational as well. I mean, you can go to a zoo, you see the animals, you read about them. But we want to talk about animal kinds out at the zoo also.
So important.
For instance, the ostrich and the emu. I'll get back to that.
Yeah.
The donkey and the horse. The alpaca and the
Llama.
the llama and the alpaca. We put those kinds, different species, and we put those kinds together to show you that they can live together and to show you the similarities and all that. Now the ostrich and the emu, they don't get along.
No.
They don't get along in nature. They don't live together in nature because they just don't get along. They fight all the time.
Like Democrats and Republicans. Yeah.
So I'm not going to get into that.
Okay. Well, let's get back to the ostrich and
Different
emu.
kinds. No, we're the same kind.
Yeah.
We're all the same kind.
We are. Yeah.
That's different species. Anyways, so we keep them in separate cages, separate pens out there.
Sure.
So that we're trying to make it an educational. Also.
That's
We're-
really great.
We're developing that all the time. We're going to expand the zoo. We're going to double the size of the zoo coming up. So by this time next year, the zoo, well, sometime in 2019, the zoo will be double the size of what it is right now.
So right now, do you have lions and tigers and bears? Oh my! Or
Well,
what's your?
Tigers, that's a lot. That's a lot to cage.
Sure.
We have, I'll tell you what we have. We have Tibetan yak.
Okay.
We have alpacas and llamas. We have the ostrich and emu. We have a lot of kangaroos. We have, actually, we've had several joeys born here at the Ark.
Now, is that Ken Ham's idea?
Yeah,
He's
well, you have to have
Australian,
Ken.
right? Oh, okay. I didn't know if it was.
Yeah, and there's wallaby up at, I think there's some wallaby up
Okay.
at the museum also. Well, we have kangaroos, we have camels you can ride, we have donkeys that you can ride. There's tons of goats. I think we're up around 25 goats right now, 23 or 25 goats.
Oh, very good.
Different reptiles that you heard about, the rats and different things like that. So
Yeah.
we have about 80 animals altogether.
Oh, very good. Okay.
Not all of them are displayed all the time. And then, like I said, sometime during the day they do come up here about mid-morning to about mid-afternoon.
Is this a touching petting zoo or just an
There
observant
is an
zoo?
area that is a petting area
Okay.
in the zoo where you can pet the goats. We have Methuselah out there as our tortoise.
Yeah.
He's going to get really old. So he's out
That's
there.
right.
You can
I
pet
will
him.
tell you, for you guys listening out there, this just from walking around, this is very. It seems to be very kid friendly. It seems to be very like our friend here, Patrick, is on crutches and he's doing pretty good. But they even have you can rent if you're have trouble getting. Isn't that good?
This is awesome.
Listen, this is bubbly, folks. I'm trying
This
to
is
get them
my
to.
favorite.
I'm getting them to try to comp me and send me some money for promoting their stuff. But you can rent carts here. I've seen some people riding around in motorized carts. So if you think you can't get around here, you're wrong. It
Wheelchairs,
really is.
we have 80 some odd electric scooters.
Yeah,
We
really
have-
accessible. Really accessible.
And if you don't bring a stroller for your kids, we have 1- and 2-seat strollers.
Okay. Can you get on the top deck?
No,
And look out,
there is
no?
a fourth deck, but it's not finished off.
Okay.
We're going to do something with that eventually, but there's no getting up there.
Okay. All right.
Okay, now,
I interrupted you again, and I forget
Overnights.
where. Okay, there you go.
this is something that's been going on at the museum for a while.
This is a great idea.
So we have it at both locations. We can have as many overnights as we want. We can have them every night. We don't do them on Saturday nights because Sunday morning we don't open until noon.
Right.
So there wouldn't be anybody here. We don't want to have it just wouldn't work because
Yeah.
we don't turn everything on till like 11.
I'm thinking you don't want teenagers running around at,
Yeah.
so-
So what you do is you show up. Most groups, and we cater to youth groups, like that. You need at least 30 in your youth group. And if you want to combine churches from your location and come as a group, that's fine. But there's no other group on the Ark.
Wow.
And I'm just going to talk about the Ark, but there's something similar at the museum as well.
Okay.
So, so you come with your group. Again, 30 to 100. We could probably do more than 100. I'm sure we can accommodate that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you got room. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
we have plenty of room. So you come with your bedding. We don't have bedrooms here and
Right.
that kind of facility. There's no showers, but you can handle that. I mean, you can towel off and do whatever.
Sure.
We have restrooms and all, so that's not an issue. So you bring your own bedding. We're going to set you up where the theaters are in deck 2 and deck 3. We'll separate the boys and the girls.
Uh-huh.
Again, we mainly cater to youth groups because there's not a lot of old people that want to sleep on.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say you don't have a lot of nursing homes.
Just trying to be kind here.
Yeah.
When you get our age,
I don't necessarily, let me personalize it. I don't necessarily
wanna
like to
sleep
sleep
on the floor.
on the hard floor. I'll do it out in a tent and stuff. but,
Yeah.
anyhow,
You've done
bring-
your time in bivouac.
Yeah.
It's in.
Bring whatever you want.
Right.
Sleeping bags and all. We don't do hammocks, but you can do sleeping bags, bedroll. Make yourself comfortable. We do have a scavenger hunt on the Ark, and
my
we change the
gosh.
program around a bit
Yeah.
periodically, but we have had scavenger hunts. We have a movie and a snack at night before we bed everybody down.
Yeah.
And the music and everything is turned off. The lights stay on, but the music is turned off and the videos are turned off
Yeah.
at night after we close. So this time of year we close at 9 o'clock. So you would show up at 9 o'clock at night and then spend the night. The next morning you have your own behind the scenes tour of the zoo. And then you have breakfast over at the restaurant. Now, you can have different levels of breakfast too. The basic breakfast is a continental breakfast. If you want something more than that, you have to pay a little bit extra.
Right.
Now, the cost of that overnight is $19 a person.
Wow. That's incredible.
I like to see people's reaction when I tell them that.
Yeah, that's just
$19 a person is very reasonable. And the
That-
reason
that-
why
that
we're
barely-
doing that,
I mean, that takes care of the food. I mean, it's-
well, the reason why we're doing that is we want to get as many young people in here as possible.
yeah.
Because we do share the gospel. We give the biblical account. It's not just a story, it's a biblical account of Noah and the flood. And we just want as many young people in here as possible. We're losing our young people.
Yes.
And we think that
Well, that's right.
the exhibits and all here appeal to their intellect and they'll get it. It's not a childish, mamby-pamby kind of thing where you're kind of walking through. It's world-class exhibits.
It is.
And
It
your
is
wife
definitely.
is just coming back from looking around the bed.
Yeah.
the information is
I'm sure.
spot on.
Yeah, she can't wait to take me. I'm sure. Oh, you
Yeah.
got to come see this. I know
Yeah,
she's
the
gonna-
science and the information is spot on.
Yeah.
Now we give
Really not.
there's world views, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
There's world views. There's the.
I learned that from Del Tackett. We talked
There you go.
about it. Yeah.
There's two different views. There's there's a world view, evolutionary view, and then a
Biblical worldview.
creation view.
Yeah, creation.
And we depict both of those in a lot of these exhibits. We're displaying both sides. I'm not going to tell you which one you should choose. You need to choose that for yourself.
Yeah.
So in other words, it's kind of like Fox News. We report, you decide.
Yeah. Right.
We're given both views. The creation view is very compelling.
Right.
It's compelling. It's science, and you'll walk away. You walk away with different views.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been we went through here very briefly to get to this interview.
Yeah.
I'm overwhelmed. When you said world class, I've been to several different museums and parks, and this is amazing. I'm just
Well,
I
I'm
was
going to be
stunned.
frank with you. We're competing with the Disneys, the Universal Studios, because people go on vacation.
Yeah.
Actually, what's happened in Northern Kentucky here is it's become a Christian vacation spot.
Right.
The spot to go in the United States, because you got the Creation Museum and the ARK ENCOUNTER, and people are just flocking here. We're into our second year now. We're going to have our second year anniversary next month. In our first year here, we had over 1 million people come to.
Is that right?
Over 1 million.
That's incredible. That's just
Now, what that did to the museum is it increased the guest population at the museum. So they had their best year ever last year.
right.
Their best year ever, almost 500,000.
That's just
came to the
amazing.
museum last year.
I'm really excited for us to get over to the museum eventually. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it when we come back from Ohio or what we're going to do, but
Well, let me know and I'll meet you there. My office is up there.
that'd be great. And, you know, I can almost assure you we'll be back up here with a group of youth. I know it'll happen. In fact, I've just been thinking what I'd really like to do is do a co-op and bring some of our youth from Costa Rica, our churches down there, and have some supporters up here pay for them to come up. I just think it would be it's life-changing. This really is a life-changing experience. Yeah. Okay, so anything we haven't covered that we probably need to talk about? I've covered all my questions.
We mentioned our websites before.
Yeah.
Any information you need about...
Give us the websites and stuff again, because sometimes people will get on and they'll just go through the end and think it's going to be there, and we want it to be there.
AnswersInGenesis.org. It's all one word. Answers in Genesis, GENESIS.
Yeah.
AnswersInGenesis.org. CreationMuseum.com. ARKEncounter.com. Any of those places you can get to make reservations. There's information about the overnights. There's information about what's available at both attractions.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but she's got an iguana over there now, and people are just flocking to this.
Yeah, I got to pet him.
You got to pet the iguana?
Yeah.
Isn't that a lot like a snake?
No.
That's really neat. We'll get some pictures of that later.
That's probably a rhino.
Pretty amazing.
They call
And
it
you
a
can
rhino because it has the spoon right on top here. Rhino lizard or rhino iguana.
You've reminded me with that visual. I had one little kid say that they heard that the unicorns were playing, and so they missed the Ark, and they wanted to know, was that true? You're the expert. I had to
Ask
ask.
the father when we get home.
Okay. What has a horn? One horn.
Yeah, I don't know. Well,
some rhinoceros have one horn. Some have two.
Antelope, I think.
No.
No, aren't there some kind of antelopes that have like a? I'm making stuff
Where
up.
did
folks.
he go to school?
Yeah.
No,
Don't tell me.
yeah,
Yeah, in Iowa.
I tell you what. Go on AnswersInGenesis.org. We have tens of thousands of articles, radio pieces that we've done. Type in unicorn. Type in unicorn and see what you come up with. All right.
Okay. Well, thanks, Patrick. I interrupted you there a couple of times, but because you were given, let's just do it again, and we'll end the show there. Give us the Answers in Genesis website. Who do they contact? They want tickets, all that stuff.
AnswersInGenesis.org, CreationMuseum.com, ARKEncounter.com. But on the AnswersInGenesis.org website, our main website, there's tens of thousands of articles. And a great search engine. You just type in anything. I do a lot of research on that website to answer. I answer a lot of Ken's correspondence. People will ask questions. Some of them really hard questions, and I'll get the information I need on the website.
And you can find a lot of answers there. Things like, how many, we've gone through some of them, but how many animals were on the Ark.
Right.
It talks about different kinds.
I mean, you just go to the search engine, type in animal kinds, and there'll be a whole
information.
Whole list of articles that we've written.
Right, great.
Sure.
Okay, well, thank you, Patrick. I sure appreciate your time today, sir. I look forward to seeing the rest of the Ark.
Absolutely.
And for those of you out there watching, thanks for joining us on R7 Radio and video now. Hopefully we'll have some pictures on our website and stuff that we've done here, and a little bit of answers and questions. Be sure to go visit AnswersInGenesis.org and then come here and see the Ark. I assure you it is worth every penny.
Come to Northern Kentucky, you won't be disappointed.
You won't be. Gorgeous. A lot of fun. All right, talk to everybody later.